I cannot stress enough how glad I am that this half of the video starts with a respectable pick instead of a 100 gex song.
It's like a psychedelic switch. Don't wake me 'cause I'm lucid dreaming, meditating on your lips.
Come on, it's Carly Rae. Everyone likes her, right? She's got that one song that became a huge hit out of nowhere. Emotion is one of the best pop albums of the last 15 years. She's a great pop songwriter with an ear for fantastic melodies. And given all this, my expectations for her 2023 project, The Loveliest Time, were actually kinda lukewarm. I stand by what I said about Emotion, but all of her projects since then have been on a steady decline. Both sides of Dedicated and The Loneliest Time are not bad records at all, don't get me wrong, but are also undeniably less exciting than her best, opting for a more low-key brand of synthpop that, by The Loneliest Time's release in 2022, I was a little sick of. And when I saw that her newest album was being sold as a collection of B-sides to that 2022 album, I was a little skeptical.
And all my insecurities can't stand the way you look at me. You loving me, it's hard to resist. It's like a psychedelic switch.
But, never mind that, I guess, because this album bops and it bops hard. Psychedelic Switch seemed to be the song that received the most love, and I kind of agree with that sentiment. It's an expertly crafted piece of pop music that feels impossible to hate, playing with dance pop styles that have really been popularized recently with a meticulous level of craftsmanship applied to the track. There's just so many little touches that work so well to make the song what it is. Those string sections are glorious, adding a nice drop of flavor to the song, and during that bridge where everything cuts back and you're just left with Carly's gorgeous voice. God, it's just so good!
'Cause baby, I'll be satisfied forever with a couple years of this.
And all of this pristine production is really supported by the lyrical theme, focusing on how her relationship can make her feel so secure and just perfect. It's a theme she's been singing about for years, and a lot of other times I'd get sick of it or find it corny, but it's just hard to not smile when she sings about her insecurities being blasted away or her confidence in her own body. I don't know, I think everybody needs a song like this. It doesn't have to be this one in particular, but everyone should have a song that's just this unabashedly happy. And for that sort of song, Psychedelic Switch was my choice this year, a danceable, infectious tune with absolutely nothing to complain about, from a woman who should be forming a legacy as one of the best pop songwriters over the last 10 years. I returned to it a lot over the year, and it's still just as perfect as when I first heard it. Psychedelic Switch is easily one of the best tracks of 2023.
It's like a
So this is a bit of a weird one, at least in terms of how it actually made it onto the list. See, in order to prepare for this top 20, I kept a year-long playlist going where I dumped all the tracks that I thought had a chance of making it here. Most of the songs in that playlist, which I'll link in the description, didn't leave a massive impact on me, but I wanted something to reference back to in order to feel like I was being fair while making this list. Moving forward to December, where I start really just playing the entire playlist on shuffle to get myself familiarized with the year's best music. And while I was doing that, I heard this one song that I'd literally forgotten existed for most of the year and realized I kind of love it. And while most of the songs on this list were stuff that I kept coming back to for the year, this track is here because I know I'm still going to be playing it a long way into 2024.
Blackout, am I better now?
Looking back, it's kinda obvious why this didn't stick in my mind. Traditionally, I'm just not a huge emo or pop-punk listener. The extent of my emo knowledge is enjoying Transatlanticism and hating Blurry Face by 21 Pilots, which, you know, really super hot takes there. Watch out, guys. I'm gonna be writing for Pitchfork next. Or not anymore, I suppose. I can only use my amateur emo knowledge as an excuse for a little bit, though. I went and re-listened to this whole album, and it's really good. It's got tons of fun, punky riffs, super depressing imagery, and overall just stands as a really enjoyable time. I suppose more than anything, this song has made me want to be more aware of the good stuff when it comes out, rather than just skipping it if it's not in an area I'm completely familiar with.
Offer nothing, never change. Like inside, I saw this
Because, like I said, It's a Family Movie is a great banger that I'm going to be replaying a ton. It's in equal parts heartbreaking and invigorating, the song seems to be about a dysfunctional family under the influence of drug addiction, and Hot Mulligan are great at painting a complete portrait of this story within 3 minutes. These incredibly passionate vocals sell the track to such a degree that I can almost see the events taking place in front of my eyes. But in terms of passive listening, it just doesn't feel like that. The vocals are strained enough that the message is still effective, of course, but the production is so full of life and varied. The guitar solo kicks so much ass, the drums hit with so much punch, that It's a Family Movie creates such a fantastic energy behind those heartbreaking lyrics. It's a Family Movie was by far my most surprising pick on this list, the track which got onto my radar the latest, and while that might be how it played out, don't take that away from this song. I didn't place it in the top 10 for no reason. Once it hits, it knocks you out, and I can't wait to see where Hot Mulligan go next. Let me tell you guys, you're not going to believe this, but I am a hoe, and I am terrified.
Stop scaring hoes. Play that shit out and touch their toes. We don't wanna hear that red shit no more. What the fuck is that? Give me the Mars code. Stop scaring the hoes.
Talk about a match made in heaven. Danny Brown's zany delivery mixed with JPEG Mafia's gritty voice and absolutely wild production. It's no surprise that this came to fruition, and it's no surprise that the project went as hard as it did. I wasn't as into the album as most people were, but God, when it got things right, it really got them right. Honestly, Scaring the Hose never really clicked with me as a single. I thought it was fine, even pretty good, but didn't see it reaching the heights of either artist's solo work. But putting it into the context of the full album made the vision abundantly clear. Play that shit that'll have them touch their toes? This entire album is a big middle finger to the idea of playing into the traditional structure of a rap project, and it's just so refreshing to hear. No doubt the song is weird as hell. The saxophone is nuts, it's wailing and screeching all over the track but never quite feels out of place. The outro is chaos incarnate, but the bass keeps it all grounded somehow, and the beat, all built on this super simple rhythmic clapping, whether the clapping hands or cheeks, I don't really want to think about it, but the good news is I don't have to think about it. There's enough greatness going on in this track to make it special regardless. I don't know, it all just feels so fresh and yet still so quintessentially Peggy. It's not as raw as LP or as sample based as All My Heroes Are Cornballs, but JPEG Mafia has such a recognizable production style that you already know what you're getting into here. I mean, if we're actually talking about scaring hoes away, this song isn't necessarily the JPEG Mafia song I'd choose, given that I find it so catchy. But I honestly see that as more of a reason to question my hoe status than this song's legitimacy. Even with the song's weirdness, this does feel like the perfect entry point for both artists here. You know, if you thought Danny's verse here kicked ass, which it did, well, brilliant news, that's almost how wacky he is on Atrocity Exhibition. Not that I really wanted him to go full Atrocity Exhibition on this track though. Despite not liking the way he was mixed for a lot of the album, it fits seamlessly here, possibly because of how thrown together and rough the mixing on the whole feels. Seriously, what more do you want me to say? The song is great, you know the song is great, it was one of the most celebrated rap projects of 2023, and for good reason. We're living in an age where the experimental stuff needs to get weirder and weirder. Hopefully in 2024 we get even more hoe-scaring music. Even if it means I have to give up my hobby as an amateur music commentator and live in secluded fear somewhere. Shit like this is absolutely worth the perpetual horrors. You know, I kind of have to hope that there isn't a god. If there is, what does that say about this man's past lives to have so much pain and suffering given to him now? Sufjan Stevens' long-term partner, Evans Richardson, unexpectedly passed away in April of this year. In Sufjan's Instagram post, he paid tribute to the man he called the light of his life, and dedicated this album to him with a message about the importance of maintaining and treasuring these important relationships, and giving everything you've got without holding back. I'm not doing an Albums of the Year list, but I can tell you right now that Javelin is my favourite album of the year. And there were definitely a few songs from the project in contention for this list: Goodbye Evergreen, My Red Little Fox, So You Are Tired, but in the end I went with the final behemoth of Shit Talk, because while a lot of those tracks are gorgeous in their devastation, Shit Talk is probably the purest reflection of the message in Sufjan's dedication.
No more fighting, no more talking shit.
It's hard to claim to know exactly what is going on in Sufjan's mind at any point, but I personally always just took Shit Talk at face value, and I'd like to believe that's how it was intended. Love isn't always that complicated, and through mistakes and misery, there's a message of unconditional love. Something that feels impossibly bittersweet when coming from a man who won't have the opportunity to put these words into action once again. And it all builds to a glorious middle leg of the track, where Sufjan repeats the words, "I will always love you," and "I don't want to fight at all." It's the perfect kind of swan song. At the end of the day, nothing is more important than their feelings, not even death. Shit Talk is, in my opinion, one of the most undeniably beautiful songs of the year. A perfect reflection of the life lessons he's gained over the years, and a wonderful tribute to the man he had so much love and respect for. Get well soon, man. We're all rooting for you. Do you guys remember this song?
How much money you got? A lot. How many problems you got? A lot. How many people done doubted you? A lot.
Presumably you do. It's a massive smash hit. I've always really loved it, actually, as do a lot of people. I think it serves as a great starting point for what exactly 21 is about: emotional burnout. Not that I particularly relate to anything he's saying or anything, but also, he's right. Everything is just a lot. I try to be at least a little socially aware, but I'm not very good at keeping up with current events. It's just like, I've got my own shit going on, and then I see stories in the media that are like, America just made abortion punishable by slave labor, or we just shot a black woman in her home for fun. And it's like, okay, I need to be separate from all of this. But then I feel guilty, since I should be aware of this stuff, and my discomfort is nowhere near the level of the people actually dealing with these problems. And not to make it seem like these problems are exclusive to me, or particularly important in the grand scheme of things, but when I'm dealing with emotions far more complicated than an idiot like me should ever have to endure, there was one song that really helped me out.
Every second of collective heartbreaks, all together every single head shakes. Shut your eyes.
You know, this theme is really easy to mess up. You know how risky it is to have a song towing this line without coming across as all, "Oh, woe is me." And this sort of social commentary does need to happen, but there's also countless instances of celebrities really missing the mark with these topics, and I think the fact that Paramore managed to do this song justice deserves a lot of praise. Because when it comes down to it, The News is a really blunt song, all round. The production, the delivery, the songwriting are all laid super flat on the table without pulling punches. It does an absolutely insane job at capturing the feeling of helplessness when seeing the scale of disaster over the world, while also understanding that it's okay to unplug from that constant cycle.
All along we called it normal. Every second of collective heartbreaks, all together every single head shakes.
And even though this song is clearly about Hayley Williams' experiences in this regard, I don't know, I think this hook does justice to the fact that even though we might want to unplug, that won't remove the fact that these horrible things are happening. And I could talk for hours about these issues, but that's not what I want this section to be about. I want this section to be about this song, plain and simple. I want it to be about how it so perfectly emanates the theme it's trying to capture. I want to talk about how fucking great that riff is and how awesome Hayley Williams' vocal performance is. I want to talk about how this might actually be the best song Paramore have released in their 20-year history. I think The News really is just an instant classic. Catchy, witty, and self-aware. It's fun and heartbreaking, realistic and idealistic, and a sign that even though they've been around a long time, the band have still got their old energy. Plus a bit more.
Shut your eyes, but it won't go away.
Well, it's that time of the video again. Here's 10 songs that I liked, but not as much as 20 other songs from 2023. Are they even worth listening to then? Whatever.
Another Muse ham night, make T-Rex move. Been still the one you cannot act to. The phantom in purgatory trying to pass through.
I'm always a big fan of music that makes you forget about the consequences of the Industrial Revolution.
You sound funny when you talk, you don't know. So give me the quick, cause it ain't what you know. I did not like a nigga that can't hop in a seat. See the shot that
Could honestly see TK Maidza having a massive mainstream hit in the next few years. She's just got all the qualities of a hitmaker, and it helps that the songs mostly slap too. How did Dorian Electra find my Bible fanfiction?
I've been smooth for so long, I'm trying to get rough. Fuck buffing my nails, dog, I'm trying to get buff. Fuck shaping my beard up, I'm liking the scruff.
Unfortunately, you're right. Most people haven't loved your last two projects. This was a banger though.
But ain't no I like this one. Ain't no I like this.
Paris, Texas's Mid-Air was possibly the album with the most reactionary flame thrown at it. It really landed on first impact, but with a little bit of time, it really shrunk on a bunch of people. I still really enjoy this song and this project. If you haven't heard it recently, give it a spin. It's better than you remember. I, for one, am entirely comfortable with Slowdive just making incredibly simple dream pop songs till the end of time. I like this era of the Hives way more than I like their breakout stuff. So glad Pele Armfist made it through puberty by now. If 60s and 70s soft rock worship sounds like a fun time to you, I really hope you check this one out. I'm embarrassed by how close this was to making the proper list. It's super FIFA soundtrack core, so it just really played into my nostalgia, I think. Haters will say that Parannoul should have made the full list. Real ones know his debut album is still his best.
warm horizon, don't look back. Let's ride away, let's ride away.
You know, I feel like my number 5 really keeps in line with my feelings on the last pick. Those feelings of drowning in the messiness of the world and being unable to keep up with everything that's going on. But while the news does well at capturing the negative feelings engulfed in this phenomenon, this pick chooses action. And through its nothing matters so why not try attitude, it easily became one of my most played songs of 2023. I didn't plan this out exactly, especially since both of these songs made it on the list mostly on the strength of their actual musicality. They are both great tracks, and it was pretty tough deciding which one I liked more, but ultimately I think I respect the mentality of Doubt a little bit more, and also prefer the heavy dynamics and incredible build-up.
Scream louder than you need to, loud enough to cut through.
Because make no mistake, I know I've spent a lot of time talking about the lyrical themes over these last two picks, but Doubt is just a fantastic song. It's one of my favourite Jeff Rosenstock performances ever, honestly. I don't know if his vocals have ever been this genuinely great before, even if the passion was always there. It's definitely not a fluke. Further down the album, he shows his range on Slow Jam Heal Mode, a really pretty acoustic number.
It'll be one thing if it's once or twice, but it's every night your entire life.
Maybe that's what sells Doubt as a full package to me, his underrated range. It starts super slow and low-key and ends up a super passionate rager, and none of it feels unearned. It lends itself well to the idea of rising tension and escalation until he simply can't keep a lid on the song or his feelings anymore. Which just is so perfect, thematically, especially because of the ideas that the song is selling to you about fighting against one's own anxieties and doing what you want to do, a lesson I've had to take in while making these very videos. There's that one line, which really just hits hard, especially with Jeff's manic delivery on the follow-up chorus. Everything on this song just feels great. It was one of the most liberating musical experiences I had all year because of how eloquent and sincere the first half is, and how deeply cathartic the second half is. Doubt is, without a doubt, one of the best songs I heard all year. A perfect encapsulation of both what makes Jeff Rosenstock great and what makes music itself great. Choreomania is the technical term for the affliction of being unable to stop dancing. The most famous example of this phenomenon is the French dancing plague of 1518, where it's often reported that hundreds of people died of exhaustion as a result of the choreomania. Sounds made up, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, in the year of our Lord 2024, that it's back and more dangerous than ever. Seriously, I've been shaking my ass for the last 20 minutes just thinking about this song. Seriously, I can't stop. Sitting at the McDonald's, I can't even eat my food. In the supermarket, I just tipped over an entire pallet of strawberries. At a funeral, you best believe this is about to be the most hype eulogy ever given. I'm not entirely sure where this came from, either. I mean, this isn't Jessie Ware's first time making these disco throwbacks, of course. 2021's What's Your Pleasure is an incredible pop showcase of slightly more low-key bops. But where that album is about love, her newest project is about love. Seriously, that feels good, or sorry, that feels good, is horny and not afraid to show it. Sexiness isn't played super straight on the project, but rather with an alluring nature that makes it so much fun to listen to. Begin Again was a song that I liked on initial impact, but that I really grew to love as we went through the year. It's just so dense and lush that, like I said earlier, it was impossible to not fall into the groove. For one, her voice is insane. Again, I loved What's Your Pleasure, but it was only in the lead up to That Feels Good that I realised how much of a brilliant vocalist she is. I'm not exactly well equipped to talk about vocals on a technical level, but just the way that she holds her notes and soars over the production is unbelievable. And speaking of the production, God, where do I start? Those glorious horn sections, that incredible piano line on the post-chorus that could honestly propel this song into the top 10 on its own, the percussion sections, which are so intimate and enrapturing. The song has like 3 banger hooks, but my favourite moment has to be this one. She's just delivering with such breathless passion that I can't not fall in love with the sound of this thing. Not to mention I do really love the sentiment of needing authenticity from your emotional connections in order to heighten the feelings in question. The best word I can use to describe this song is majestic. It soars, it grooves, but most of all, it doesn't even feel like it was bestowed upon us by mere humans. I have no hesitation at all saying that Begin Again by Jessie Ware is the best pop song of the year, because my fucking god does this thing tear the entire house down. One of the most fun tracks of the entire decade so far. So, my top 3 songs for this year weren't even close to the stuff below it. Don't get me wrong, I do love everything on this list, but my top 3 haven't ever been in contention basically since they first came out. And while this did end up being below the other 2, that might purely be down to how late it came out, since in terms of brutal emotional impact, it is second to none.
Since Christ is Lord of heaven and earth.
I never really got into Kristen Hayter's work as lingua ignota. I really liked her as a person. She seemed cool and creative and deeply disturbed, 3 qualities I'm a big fan of. And then the abuse stuff came out, and my respect for her increased tenfold. Her bravery and honesty were stunning, and made me really want to dive deeper into her as an artist. And yet I just couldn't. I still haven't been able to, really. And so, despite the new moniker and the rebranding and the clear new direction for Kristen Hayter as a musician, I went in blind and with tempered expectations. And that was probably the best way to go about it. Go in blind and be absolutely floored by the raw, unfiltered nature of Kristen Hayter's vocals. Honesty time, guys, I can count the number of times I've listened to this song in full on one hand. That might not seem like enough for a song that I've put in the top 3 on this list, and I totally get that. But I also think that if you're aware of what this song is, you kind of get it as well. And part of me is conceptually opposed to putting this on the list at all, never mind this high. It is just a hymn, after all, and one that has multiple renditions before this one.
My life goes on in endless song.
But I keep coming back to the understanding that what this represents for Kristen Hayter as a person is most important to this version of it. For someone who has been through so much disaster and pain, questioning her own life's work and coming out the other end with the resolve to keep making music and a real devotion to her religion and God. But as much as I want to believe this final resolution, Kristen Hayter's bizarre vocalizations contrast so heavily with the lyrics that it just doesn't fit right. Genius says that it's glossolalia, which yeah, it is, but it isn't serving specifically to enhance the religious message of the song, not when she ends up chanting herself hoarse, breaking into a coughing fit, and eventually crying. And I think that off-putting nature of that contrast is what makes it hard to listen to. Is she convincing herself that her steadfast worship will save her from future disasters? It doesn't seem like it, and with what she's been through previously, I'd be surprised if that were the case. No, I do think the glossolalia is meant to enhance the message of the track. Speaking in tongues is believed to be a divine gift, but also sounds like a harrowing and just awful process. How Can I Keep From Singing is beautiful, heartbreaking, and unbelievably intense, and while Kristen Hayter appears to be in a better place now, this song remains one of the most uncomfortable listens of the year for me. In a good way, of course.
And now, for the second ever annual awards ceremony for Best Rap Hook of the Year, a prestigious award known countrywide for its truly innovative presentations. Unfortunately, last year's winner, Denzel Curry, declined to comment on the award going to The Last, but I'm more than happy to be presenting the award to you all once again. So, without further ado, the 2023 award for Best Rap Hook of the Year goes to McKinley Dixon.
Running from the guns, point and shoot. We used to play upon the playground. Running from the guns, so thought hardest part would be for me to stay down.
As someone who wasn't actually a huge fan of 2021's For My Mama and Anyone Who Looked Like Her, I can safely say I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see what he'd do next. Dixon is just such an authentic personality on the mic that it's impossible to not root for him, so when 2023's beloved Paradise Jazz expanded on his sound in creative, lush, and beautiful ways, I was hooked. Apologies for my own lack of research, but I haven't actually read the books. From my understanding though, it's intended as a series of loosely connected novels that paint a larger portrait of life for African Americans around the early 1900s, and depict the most harrowing aspects of relationships and broader society for African Americans at the time. Beloved Paradise Jazz, the album, is not necessarily written with the same tone as Toni Morrison's series, as it sees McKinley Dixon explain how his family, both blood-related and not, have given him so much to appreciate and shaped his perseverance through adversity.
I saw that boy, then I saw his souls, wondering what songs this canary holds. Glad he off the wall and his wings unfold.
It's a project that should be given the full listen to really understand it. And it's why I almost feel bad just highlighting Run 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 as the standout. But I can't help it. It just connected with me on every level, and hearing Dixon's bittersweet reminiscence on his own childhood, connecting the sense of fun and adventure that childhood should be full of, with tales of gun violence as a result of the place he grew up in. The chorus in particular, as catchy as it is, shows this duality perfectly, pitting finger guns in a little kid's game against actual gunfire and potential death. Two images that, when following each other up in this way, only serve to further strengthen the overall complicated emotions on the track. And just because Dixon still seems to want to celebrate the good parts of his childhood in spite of the bad, I don't know, I get swept up in it too. The racial implications from the end of the second verse, or even the idea of needing to celebrate someone just making it home, are horrifying, honestly. But McKinley Dixon seems absolutely determined to make it through and find happiness regardless. To aim for the sun and make Icarus jealous. And while the narratives within Run 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 are emotionally complex, I just can't help but listen and think, if he can make it through that and still want to lift everyone up to the sky, then I and anyone else can do anything. And if that's not a good reason to love a song, I don't know what is.
My number one pick is really sad. Spoiler alert, I guess. Don't expect a ton of fun delivery or joking around on this one. There's a lot of emotional turmoil wrapped up in this track, and it only makes sense that the lyrics come from this man.
With what's happened over the last 16 years, we're really lucky, and I love being in this band. But honestly, Foo Fighters is like the stupidest band name you've ever heard.
You can rest now.
At first glance, I wonder if this seems like a strange pick for the top spot. Honestly, I still wonder whether or not it's really worth the praise I'm heaping upon it here. I am fundamentally a very logical guy, and I spent a decent amount of time trying to come up with a proper justification for placing this here, but I just don't think that's time well spent, to be honest. For those who don't know, Taylor Hawkins, drummer for the Foo Fighters, passed away in 2022 at the age of 50 while they were on tour. In 2023, they released their 11th studio album, But Here We Are, which is, in my opinion, the saddest album they've made so far, by quite a distance. Driven on by the passing of both his mother and of Taylor Hawkins, Dave Grohl spent the following year penning some fantastic and potent depictions of grief, sadness, and acceptance. And Rest, the closer for the album, is my favourite song of the year, because to me it is the best possible encapsulation of the most devastating feelings imaginable. You don't listen to Rest to feel good, obviously, and actually it wasn't even close to being one of my most listened to tracks of the year. But it was one of those songs where every time you hear it, you just kind of have to sit back and go, fuck, man. What I think really kills me is it's not just pure sadness put into the song. It's an ode to the people that the band have lost in recent years, and the lyrics almost seem to be written with the intention of comforting those who have passed. You can rest, you will be safe now, in the warm Virginia sun there I will meet you. Like, it's one thing to simply expose your feelings and how these deaths have affected you, but it's a whole other thing to be thinking of these people at the same time. It shows how strong that love was, how it still remains strong, and it leaves me wrecked every time I hear it. The performance and production are just so perfect for this track. Dave Grohl's vocals are suitably intimate until the climax where they just explode into passion. That super simple guitar line is so perfect. The super compressed and overblown guitars in that second half make me ascend. Rest is, in my opinion, the best song of the year because there was nothing else more potent and devastating yet equally beautiful. Well done, guys. Amazing job.
In the warm Virginia sun.